Good evening, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to you. We spent the day hanging out as a family, picked some strawberries. We keep doing that. The kid loves them. I'll have to put a video up of her just freaking out about picking strawberries. It's so cute. Um, I wanted to take tonight to actually respond to a post. It's actually, I'm not answering a question. I actually had a really good question I wanted to get to tonight, but I saw this pop up and it created a lot of stir. And actually, I wanted to respond to this because I kind of feel passionately about it. I know it's going to raise some, comments, and I know it's going to probably get me some hot water, but I'm going to go for it. So, never been one to shy away from controversy. So, this is what was on the Market Gardening Success Group, and when somebody asks a few fundamental points as professionals we all should consider. I would assume that anyone growing food to market to the public is using recognized and labeled pest control products, and that doesn't include Dawn dish detergent. I would also assume that anyone spraying for pests has identified these pests as a first step in using IPM. Blurry picture of a few bugs asking for guesses on social media is not professional. Ask your university extension agent. Well, there's that view. um, I think, I would say is go look at the history of the USDA, go look at the history of, U.S. agriculture and the part that the land-grant university and the part that the government has played in that. And if that suits you, that's fine. I guess, something I would say is that you have to look at where the money for land-grant universities and for extension, even Cornell. I lived in New York for 12 years, and we farmed up there and worked very closely with the New York State Extension, which was, partnered with Cornell. And I'm not going to say that they're bad. And, we worked very closely with our extension agent. They were great. They would bop by the farm every once a month or so looking at a problem with us. But I'm not going to say they're the end-all, be-all either. And granted, they come from a very conventional mindset. Cornell is funded very heavily by biotech, funded very heavily by the chemical companies, and it's very transparent. You can go in and look at who's funding these studies. And the thing is that the study doesn't come out like the company wants it to. They just cut the funding, and so that the report never gets released. One of the projects I was on in last year, they were going to spend about $250,000 with the land grant to get some research that they wanted. Said we want to test something, and this is the result we want, and here's the money for that. They ended up not doing that, but this is how those things work, and it's I think, and I'll give you a few examples, and there was a lot of times that the people we worked with were great and they knew exactly what was going on. But here's a prime example that I'll give you that sometimes a farmer who's on the ground, who's actually been farming for years and is in the field, can have a little better insight into some of this new breaking research than some of the people in the industry. So I was at a conference, I forget which one. I was speaking directly after a Cornell person, a very good Cornell person. I mean, really. In New York, they're very well known. But his whole point of his talk was that you couldn't grow lettuce during the winter in upstate New York without heat. That it had to have light and heat to survive, and that's what it was. And these are the months, and these are the dates you started it to get it to survive, and these other months, not the winter. So the problem with what it was is that my talk was on how to grow lettuce in the midwinter with no heat. So, it kind of was a little awkward after the talk. He came up and says, "Oh, that's very interesting that you're able to do that. Now, I'm sure there's something you're thinking about." And I was like, "Actually, no. Here's the data. Here's what's going on. Here's what how it's working for us, and this is the science behind it, and this is how we make this work. And it's all about acclimating lettuce to cold in the fall. And if you're not acclimating, it's not going to survive." So that was one thing, and then another one was. Right now, I'm on the board of a nonprofit up in New York, it's a nonprofit farm, and we're starting a huge community garden, massive. It's going to have, I think, about 200 plots by the time it's done. But we've got over 150 volunteers, I think, signed up in this whole project. And it's amazing. Got some great energy behind it. Super excited for the what's going on there. But we've had some people from Cornell approach us to help us, and one of the one of the guys is a Cornell grad, 4-year ag student, and he said, "Hey, I wanna help with the soil tests and stuff like that, but I've never read a soil test before." And the person who was telling me was like, "Well, were they just like a dairy person? Because obviously a lot of those dairy people just take the soil test to the guy, and he gives them the recommendations, and they apply it." And he's like, "No, this is a horticulture person, 4-year ag degree, and don't know if he just didn't show up on that day that they're learning about how to read a soil test, but to me, reading a soil test is one of the most basic things I need to understand as a farmer, so I'm not getting sold a load of crap. Well, sometimes a load of crap is good for your garden, but a load of crap from the chemical companies is not what you want. Just being able to make my own decisions, because I've had tests read by those people, and they recommend, well, you need a ton of this and a ton of that, and I go, but actually that is equaling out that, and then we're going to have too much of something. So to me, that's just basic. I think I would teach in a couple week class on how to read a basic soil test. And another example, same project. We've got a lot of master gardeners we're working with on this. So one of the master gardeners came to us and says, "Well, I think in these garden beds we're going to put half compost and half soil." And we're like, "Well, why is that?" And they were like, "Well, we want our soil organic matter to be about 30%, because that's what it's supposed to be, right?" And we were like, well, it'd be nice if it's 30%, but I think that's a little bit reaching over the top. So, I'm not, I guess what I'm trying to say here is I'm not saying don't listen to them. They have a lot of advice, and for a lot of this pest and disease stuff, we do go to, and especially when things like late blight. When late blight hits, that's not something to mess with. And these university people are usually very well schooled in that sort of thing. But some of these more unusual bugs, they don't know anything. I just had a question with my local person. Now we're in Ohio. I just reached out and said, "Hey, I got this thing. I had a question about it. What's your thoughts?" And so, well, we really don't know anything. We can't look at anything until you mail it into and we get it lab tested. And I was like, well, this disease is, very clear symptoms. It only looks like this disease. But if that's the way you want to be, then that's fine. So I think the other aspect of things too is they have to cover their butt. If something came back on them, they're obviously not going to take risks. And as farmers, our goal, as we're pushing this regenerative ag movement forward, as we're figuring out how to grow stuff better and take care of the earth better, we're pushing the boundaries on all aspects. We're really trying to figure out what's new and what's going on, and we need people that can push the boundaries and some of these things, giving us advice. So I'm not saying don't listen to them. I think they have a lot of good to say. I just say what I feel is important is that you broaden your horizons, seek information in all sorts of areas, and then make the best informed decision you can on your farm. Because you're the person that knows it the best. You're the person that's there every day, and you're the person that has to live with the fact that you're feeding or what you're putting on that product to your customers in your area. So hope that wasn't too over the top, and I hope you enjoyed that. Again, happy Mother's Day, and go ahead and hope you have a great week this week farming. Looking forward to it, and have fun. All right. Good night, guys.